Create 1 million jobs, undertake massive $10 billion infrastructure development for the next 5 years, bring public sector debt to a low, abolish law banning the importation of salvage cars, as well as legalizing operations of motorcycle for commercial purposes. These are among loads of promises captured in the NDC's Election 2020 manifesto. Outdooring the document dubbed the People's Manifesto Monday night, the NDC's flag bearer, John Mahama, said December 7 election is a critical rescue mission from the abyss into which he says the country is fast sinking. For him, the country has a choice to make in December to restore hope and integrity, which he believes is currently lost under the Akufo-Addo-led government. On News Desk today, we want to focus on the free initiatives announced by the party. On education, the NDC's running mate, Professor Nana Jino-Poku-Agyeman, announced the party will slash by half tuition fees for tertiary education in the 2020-2021 academic year.
We know how COVID-19 has impacted an already weak economy and personal finances. And we must not let this become another barrier to opportunity. That is why the next NDC administration will absorb 50% of fees for tertiary students for the 2020-2021 academic year as an incentive to mitigate the effects of COVID-19 on students and their families. As a long-term investment in financial access beyond the recovery, we intend to increase the student loan amounts to be commensurate with prevailing educational costs. We will restore the Student Loan Plus initiative that we created, which takes care of newly admitted students who are facing financial difficulty even in paying the admission fees. These loan repayments will only begin when beneficiaries gain employment after school. We also recognize that many inequities that virtual learning during this pandemic has laid bare. So we will provide free laptops to tertiary students to facilitate participation in online classes. We will also establish free Wi-Fi zones in all public and private tertiary institutions, universities. Our commitment to increasing access to education is at the heart of our free TVET policy. It is a plan to provide the free technical and vocational education at the secondary and tertiary levels.
So there you have it. I'm sure you picked up a lot of the freebies. I've been joined by MP for Ketu South and member of the NDC's Finance Committee, Fifi Kwete. We also have MP for Ashaman, NS Nogbe, and Kofi Asare, Executive Director of Africa Education Watch. And these gentlemen are going to be touching on different aspects of the manifesto. But let me start with you, Mr. Kwete. Freebies. So roughly we pick about 18 free initiatives or free promises there. You just had the running mate to your flag bearer say free laptops for tertiary students, free Wi-Fi zone. There's also free primary health care for all Ghanaians. And then there's a slash of 50% of tertiary tuition fees for tertiary students for the first academic year, that's 2020-2021. Okay, free training for Kaya year as well. Just tell us how the party intends to fund all these.
There are very many viewers, and let me begin by saying that we do not presume that it's going to be an easy journey. There's no easy journey at all. But you must appreciate that over the period that NDC, especially during the period of President Mahama, was in office, the total resource envelope that was available to us. And when I mean total resource envelope, what I mean is if you add our taxes, you add all the grants, all the revenues, you add, the borrowing, oil revenues, and all of it, everything together. The total resource envelope that was available to us was, let's say, in the region of about 190 billion cedis. And with that relatively small quantum of money, we've been able to provide for this country, such monumental development that to date, our friends, even though they've had access to about twice of that amount, have not been able to replicate. Now, what it simply shows is that we have shown efficiency. We have proven that even with relatively small amount of money, so much more can be achieved. Now, over these, let's say, nearly 3.5, getting to 4 years, our friends have had access to about twice the total resource envelope that we had. And with that, they still cannot point to even one school that they have been able to construct, one secondary school constructed, one hospital that has been constructed. You can actually point to what you call the capital project that they've been able to do, not just at the national level, but also at the smaller level in terms of the sub-national level. Now, so that is the beginning point, that we have a track record of being able to deliver a lot, even with relatively smaller resources.
All right.
Now, some of the initiatives you've mentioned, for example, when you're talking about the free primary health care, you go through our manifesto properly. We absolutely said that it is time for us to start looking at this important aspect of our national life and see how it is we can start devoting some oil resource to making sure that the most important thing, which really has to do with health and life, is secured. And so that definitely is not one that really requires so much struggle to see how it is.
All right, Mr. Kwete, I remember in the build-up to the previous election when the NPP kept advocating and pushing its free SHS agenda, one of the criticisms was that there's nothing free, really. And so there was no need to push the free agenda. And there were concerns about taxes, which indeed we did see later on, the introduction of taxes, some of which have been scrapped. The minority in Parliament has been very vocal about that. Are you telling us here today, with all the about 18 free initiatives, we are not going to see the introduction of new taxes to cover the cost?
We've explained already that, for example, relating to the healthcare, we are looking at using oil resources to help.
That's one out of 18.
Absolutely, and that's major. That's major because they talk about the free primary healthcare. That actually is a major initiative that can be taken care of. Now, you must also appreciate that apart from what I mentioned, we're talking also about a country that has seen massive leakages. Now, over the period of these 4 years, you've had credible report that points to the fact that we're talking about anything in the excess of 9 billion has totally been a massive leakage, all due to what I call loopholes that have been left as a result of massive corruption. Now, any government that intends to want to do the kind of development we have to do, you want to make sure you plug those massive loopholes. That's unfortunately that has been left very wide open for us to see the huge, what you call massive money that actually leak out of the system. That's another one. Now, the other thing you must also appreciate is that we, in power, prove to be that efficient that we manage to make a lot of our organizations able to leverage huge financing without having to depend on the national coffers. Let me give you a typical example. We turned Ghana Port and Harbour Authority so much around that by the time we were leaving office, that organization, together with its partners, was able to leverage $1.5 billion without needing government guarantee.
All right. So, yeah.
You understand? So it tells you about the efficiency that you need to bring in place in order to make what you call leveraging of resources much easier.
The point you just made there takes me to my next question. So the $10 billion infrastructure plan, you're not going to resort to what's in government coffers. So I just want to believe that, right? Or
yeah, you must appreciate that when it comes to the $10 billion that you mentioned, it's a major push towards transforming the economic infrastructure of the country. Now, so similarly, as you talk about, for example, what we did, it's not just with Ghana Port and Harbors Authority that we did that. A similar thing actually had been done even at the level of GridCo. We reached that moment where GridCo on its own balance sheet was able to get funding from Agence Française de Développement to be able to do projects on its own and pay without resort to government budget. The same with Ghana Airport. Ghana Airport, as transport minister, a lot of initiatives we did. Ghana Airport did it on its own balance sheet without resort to the national, to government guarantee. Ghana Gas is another one. Ghana Gas became so massive as a result of the turnaround we did that Ghana Gas on its own could leverage billions in order to be able to. So, it's about the efficiency we showed in office. On the back of that efficiency, a lot of leveraging can be done. And again, don't forget, we set into motion what you call the Ghana Investment Infrastructure Fund, which was not just simply money that we were putting together, but also money that was meant to enable a leverage huge capacity.
All right.
And because of that infrastructure fund, you'll be able to amortize that using your infrastructure fund over
Okay. Mr. Kweti, I have to take the other guests I have on my show, but briefly, if what I'm getting from you is right, you're saying that you will not translate the cost burden of these free initiatives onto the citizenry via taxes.
Yes, so what I'm saying is that we already have opportunities to be able to leverage for facilities without necessarily bettering the citizens.
All right, thank you very much. Let me speak to Kofi Asare of Africa Education Watch. Mr. Asare, thank you for joining the program. We've been speaking a lot prior to this particular announcement. We dealt with the MPP's manifesto and education promises, where we are hearing about free tablets, free Wi-Fi, which we had in the MPP's as well, free laptops. The interesting bit is the extension of free senior high school to private schools in deprived communities. How does that, come to you as an educationist?
Well, good morning and good morning to your cherished audience. Digitizing instruction, digitizing learning, and providing internet to facilitate instruction by virtual means is one of the strategies that all African countries are adapting in the wake of COVID. And we are aware that the World Bank is supporting the Ghana government to do similar with a 50 million loan facility. And so a promise or a policy proposal to continue the digitization of teaching, learning, and the provision of gadgets to facilitate such processes is obviously in the right direction. This should have been the trajectory we should have been charting, but unfortunately, we never did so until COVID set in. And so it is an opportunity for us to move to the next level of digitizing our teaching and learning so that, natural disasters, conflicts, and other foreseen and unforeseen occurrences do not unduly disrupt our academic calendar. On the issue of expanding the free senior high school to include private schools, from the education perspective, there are two categories of private schools involved in the secondary education subsector. There's the high-end private schools, the category of Legacy, Christian High School, GIS, Tema International School, Akosomo, etc. These are high-end elite schools. And they are about 30% of the total number of secondary schools in the secondary sector. But majority of the secondary schools in the private sector are actually low-cost, moderate secondary schools, patronized by mainly students from rural districts who are unable to secure placement into the schools of their choice through the computer. And so they prefer to pay and then attend the school. And so a school like Action, Preset, Ideal College, these are, moderate senior high schools that are attended by moderate students from moderate income families. And so extending free senior high school to include such students should not be out of context. It is actually a good initiative. We've had that discussion initially with the Ministry of Education when they were considering the rollout of the free senior high school. But the ministry raised some seemingly constitutional challenges because the private schools were looking at government financing the entire school system, okay? But then there were proposals from private schools that suggested that government could just pay, if the cost of free senior high school a year is 2,000 Ghana cedis, government could just pay the 2,000 Ghana cedis and then compel them to accept it as the 100% school fees, not to charge anyone any extra fee. If you accept what government is able to offer, then government will go with you. But there wasn't consensus on this proposal between the private and the public sector. And so bringing it on board would enhance access to secondary education in line with the education strategy plan and also in line with government's march towards the sustainable development goals for.
The NDC on education exciting?
Yeah. Obviously, normally when you're in a position, if you study the trajectory of election promises, normally the opposition parties have a lot of enticing promises. Making education free for the disabled. This is in Section 18 of the Persons with Disability Law, Act 715. It was passed over 10 years ago, hasn't seen full implementation. Disabled students should not pay fees as a matter of law. And so having policy proposals that seek to operationalize such legal provisions that have been lying still for all this while is good. However, there are some aspects of their promises which obviously are not workable in the sense that we are against the withdrawal of licensure. We supported the NDC when they introduced licensure in 2016. And because it will enhance the professionalism of the teaching of teachers. And so far it has done well. The pass rate for licensure now is about 78%. And so any policy to withdraw licensure and produce teachers en masse from the faculty level obviously will not be in the interest of the professionalization of the teaching profession. So some of the proposals may not find expression in what we feel to be the felt needs and then also the critical demands of our educational system, especially in the area of efficiency and then management efficiency and then spending efficiency.
I really appreciate your time this morning. Kofi Asare is Executive Director of Africa Education Watch, and we'll be focusing on the NDC's promises in the education sector. But let me pick MP for Ashaman, Mr. Ernest Nogbe's take on the promises made by his party. So if all these freebies materialize, chances are that a lot of your constituents will benefit greatly, looking at how your constituency is made up. Tell us how you feel about this as you seek another opportunity to represent your people.
Well, thank you very much, and then good morning to your listeners. The People's Manifesto, to a large extent, is a manifesto to alleviate the suffering of many Ghanaians, invest in the people, and also build a solid infrastructure for the country. And also, I believe that the people of Ashama has featured prominently in this manifesto. When you look at the legalization of the Okada business, it's something that has been bothering me as a member of parliament in the constituency. And so with the mind that President John Dramani Mahama come 2021 will legalize and regulate their activities, it's a time for jubilation. And then I can assure you that the people of Ashama, especially the Okada riders, are so much happy about this promise made to them by former President John Dramani Mahama. When you look at the situation where he said they will be building some ultra-modern market in some specific areas, such as Adan, Ashama, Aplau, and some other areas. Ashama has featured once again in that aspect too, which we are so much happy about it. Again, former President Mahama made a promise to the people of Ashama that he was going to upgrade Ashama Municipal Assembly into metropolis. And that can tell you that we are bringing a lot of development into the Ashama community. What gladdens my heart most is the free apprenticeship. Ashama is just like a dormitory town and that serve the communities, especially the working force in Tema municipality or metropolis. So we have a lot of people, artisans, etc. in Ashiaman. And so therefore this promise that there will be free, training. After training, we give you NVTI, some of which we have to establish them. Those who want to do, go into welding, plumbing, electricals, etc. We have to establish most of these people, and those who can work in the formal sector, we train them freely and also invest in them so that the formal sector can absorb these people. And Ashaman is a place where most of the youth are into artisan and then artisanal activities. So talk of carpentry, talk of other issues. So it's a call that each and every one of us are very much happy about in Ashama.
Right.
And as a member of parliament, my duty is to make sure that we also get our share of the cake. And definitely I will do that and bring that development to Ashama.
Thank you very much for your time. That's MP for Ashaman, NX Nobe, and a member of the NDC. But let me take your final words, Mr. Kwete. It's interesting that the NDC has a lot of free initiatives, considering the criticism against free SHS. But you've explained to us that the cost burden will not be put on the citizen. So we have gone through some of the highlights of your manifesto. If you were supposed to speak to a voter in a minute, what would you tell them about this manifesto and what it will do for the people of Ghana?
In a minute, I would say that this manifesto, we are calling it, it's a manifesto by the people, for the people. It basically seeks to address what I call the bleeding of our people. Okay, for example, small businesses which remain in every economy, the real economy. Even when you go to America, they will tell you that the whole American economy is turning on the back of small businesses. And the Kenyan government has paid a lot of lip service to small businesses. We are talking about the fact that when we come, we want to address a basic issue that has to do with, for example, small businesses employing less than 20 people should absolutely not have to pay corporate income tax.
All right.
That, for instance, it's a major thing because on that, you are creating opportunity for them to grow, to expand, to generate money, pay more taxes, employ more people, and the whole economy expands. So these are real initiatives that really can bring about huge transformation.
Our 1 minute is up. Thank you very much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. You heard the Fifi Kwete. He's a member of the NDC's Finance Committee on the manifesto. You're watching News Desk with me, Benes Abubedulan. So let's take you now live to a press conference by a group of civil society organizations on the Ejapa deal.